Welcome back to the History Shelf, everybody. Welcome, BookTube. This is Peg, your host. And after the wild success of our last hour-long romp through secondhand books, boy, we just had so much fun. We decided to invite back Martine.
Ooh.
How do you feel about your celebrity?
About as impressed as Goldie right now.
About as impressed as our dog right behind me.
No, it's very kind. It's very sweet. It's entirely misplaced. But thanks, guys.
Isn't she so humble? As soon as you plop her face on a thumbnail, and then it's like 1,000 views. I don't warrant that.
The face that launched 1,000 ships.
Martine's face is the one that launched 1,000 ships. But hey, we're back for a part 2. Might be a little more subdued just because it's so freaking hot here in Colorado land. It's cooled down to 95 right now,
Yay.
but it did get to 99 today. And it's supposed to be stinking hot all weekend.
Rest of the month?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sucks.
It does. Can you, okay. I think you're close enough to the mic, or at least you're going to try. Oh.
Stop it now.
We're going to
Stop
get her
it.
on the camera,
Stop it.
Laverne.
That's not even. Come on.
All right. Okay, so I'm gonna I'm gonna show some used books. So the last video we made, I had accrued a bunch of stuff that I had just gone shopping for, and was things to complete my collection, or just they looked good, So several more have come in over time, and I thought there was enough here to make a second video. And we may have commentary from Martine, we may not. I don't know.
Yeah, bring it on.
Okay, there's a couple things here that'll probably elicit some type of response. Not right away, though. Do you want me to save the? Okay, we'll save that for later. You know what? Let's just knock this out first. Let's just knock out the Catholic stuff first.
Oh, man. Okay.
I did. I went on a little bit of a
If you say Catholic bender, that would be funny. I don't know.
a Catholic bender. I got a couple more books. Well, I got one. Okay. I've really been enjoying the books put out by Ignatius Press, which is a Catholic publisher. They've got some fantastic works. And I bought this one secondhand. I think I ordered it through Thrift Books. Again, it's just to help me. I know it. I know she's going to say something.
You're up to something because you started making shifty eyes, and I was like, "What are you?"
I'm making shifty eyes, she says. Last time, in the last video I showed you, I got the second volume of the Pope Benedict XVI biography. So there's 2 volumes. Well, I came across this book, and it was written by his brother. And apparently, I don't know, then I watched a documentary on Benedict XVI and about his family life. And apparently they were a very, very close-knit family, 2 brothers and a sister. And they're very, very all talented in their own ways. I think one of them, yes, and one of them was like a... and the guy who wrote this, I think he's like a composer, not a composer, but let me just read this. Anyway, this is My Brother the Pope by George Ratzinger. Okay, it's all nice and quiet on the Western Front. She said everything there is to say. It was not always the case that Monsignor George Ratzinger, thank you, honey, lived in the shadow of his younger brother, Joseph. George was an accomplished musician, there you go, who for over 30 years directed the Regensburger Domspatzen, the world-famous boys' choir of the Regensburg Cathedral. His brother Joseph was a brilliant young professor, but known primarily in German academic circles. Now George writes about the close friendship that has united these 2 brothers for more than 80 years. This book is a unique window on an extraordinary family that lived through the difficult period of National Socialism in Germany. Those interested in knowing more about the early life of Pope Benedict XVI will not be disappointed. They will also learn of the admirable character and inspiring example of the parents and see how the Catholic faith shaped not just a family, but a culture, in this case that of Bavaria. La 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 goes on and okay, so that's just more of the same. It's just a kind of a reminiscence, and there's some old photos of the family, and I love stuff like that. That's George, and this is Joseph, the future pope. Did you want to see that?
No.
Okay. No interest.
No, because I'm sure they were a lovely family, but somehow they let a dog into the hen house with what at least one of their sons believed in. So,
right there you have it. And maybe just to counteract that, I thought I should get a book, a novel, also put out by Ignatius, secondhand. This is called "The Death of a Pope." I don't know. It's nothing to do. One does not have anything to do with the other except for the word pope. Piers Paul Reed. I'm sure many of you have heard of this author. He's written many different books. Thinks he's written on the Templars. I have a book downstairs that he wrote about Chernobyl, and he wrote a book about the firefighters there. So this is a novel I'd never heard of that he wrote, and I was intrigued, and I was able to find a very nice hardcover for $5-6, maybe less. So this is a novel, and it starts off with here. It says Juan Yuriarte, a handsome and outspoken Spanish ex-priest, seems to be the model of nonviolence and compassion for the poor and downtrodden. So why is he on trial, accused of terrorist activities? Again, there's an orb flying around my head. What is that? Is that the... Who is that? Did you see that orb, you guys? It was probably just fuzz.
Truth comes out, Peggy takes drugs before she goes on these
Oh, yeah.
No, I don't see...
It was a piece of fuzz.
But I did tell you your LSD use was completely out of control. No.
Stories about my LSD use have been wildly and greatly exaggerated. I'm kidding. I've never tried that in my life.
See that orb.
She did not see the orb, but some of you did, and it was probably just a piece of fuzz. That's what I'm going to say. It has been known to happen. We got 3 dogs all passed out in here right now. We've got Goldie behind.
They're still shedding as they're passed out.
Yep. You can't really see Daisy. She's in that other little bed right behind my chair. No, it's okay. She's sleeping.
Hello.
So anyway, where did I leave off? The orbs. So yeah, why is this guy on trial for terrorist activities? His worldwide Catholic charitable outreach program is suspected of being a front for radicals. The trial is covered by Kate Ramsey, a young British reporter who sets out to uncover the truth about Yuriarte and his work. She travels with him to Africa to see his work firsthand, but soon finds, oh no, herself attracted to him.
Oh, shocking development, I see.
Shocking development. Meanwhile, an international conspiracy is growing, one that reaches into the Vatican itself. Shocker. When the death of Pope John Paul II brings about the conclave that will elect, this is where it comes into play, Joseph Ratzinger as Pope Benedict XVI, a terrorist plot involving blackmail, subterfuge, and mass murder begins to fall into place. A plot that could spell disaster for the Catholic Church and the world. Okay, so it's just a, pot boiler. Oh, yeah, Piers Paul Reed, he also wrote the book Alive about the Andean, the plane crash survivors. Yeah, soccer team. Yes. Okay, so that was just a whim. I saw that and I said...
Are you suggesting that the popes will start eating each other, or the would-be popes during the conclave? Be like Hunger Games, only...
Cannibalism?
Sure. That'd be fun.
That would certainly be different. I'm trying to think of another word for cannibalism that involves the word papacy, but then it gets weird. So we'll not say that. And confusing. Okay, so the last book of a Catholic nature, also by Ignatius Press, is a man I've read before. I've enjoyed a couple of his books. I have not read his magnum opus on John Paul II. Wait, who was the guy that came to... Who was the Pope that was alive when we were kids? Was it John Paul II?
John Paul I was allegedly killed by the mafia.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what part of Godfather 3 is about.
Is that the one that was poisoned, or was that a guy back in the 14th century? John Paul I?
Look, it depends on what book you read. Go pick up some books on that. Very interesting story.
Okay, I will look. I will look for some books on John Paul I and his ties to the mafia. If any of you have any suggestions out there, please let us know in the comments below. I'd be intrigued.
See, because remember, he gives confession to Michael,
Yes.
and then he becomes Pope, and Michael's like, well, we got to kill him now. That's how that all came about. Because he told Michael that, Michael told him that he'd killed his brother. He'd killed Fredo.
Was this in Godfather 3?
Yeah.
Okay. Guess what? I haven't watched that all the way through.
Okay.
Because
I
I
can't
felt
say
like
it's like
Godfather
Reindeer.
3 is not part of the canon for me. I just refuse to believe it's part of the story.
Sophia Coppola shows up. No, actually, I couldn't say that. I was going to say Sophia Coppola shows up and you stop watching. But she was one of the babies who was baptized in the first two movies.
Yeah, I did know that. I did know that bit of Godfather trivia.
Yeah.
Sophia Coppola was getting baptized up in that. Sorry, I'm being weird. So George Weigel is a well-known Catholic.
Any relation to Trudy?
I didn't even get that. I've never thought about this.
Oh,
Every time I
man.
looked at this guy's name. Back in the day, there was a really funny, outrageous show called Reno 911. We still like to watch the seasons because they are rip-roariously politically incorrect. They are funny.
She would say, hoot.
They were a hoot and a hoot nanny. And one of the characters on that show, her name is Trudy Weigel. George has the same last name. But anyway, I picked up The Fragility of Order, Catholic Reflections on Turbulent Times. I really enjoyed his book, The Cube and the Cathedral. I highly recommend that book to anyone who is interested in just analysis, essay writings on contemporary issues. And I'm not Catholic, but I really enjoyed his writing and his thoughts. You know, I don't have to agree with everything, but a lot of the things I agreed with him on. In The Cathedral, The Cube and the Cathedral, I think. Yeah. This is a fairly recent book. I think I got this. This is obviously an ex-library book, but this came out in 2018. Says here, one of America's most prominent public intellectuals brings 35 years of experience in Washington and Rome to bear in analyzing the turbulence that characterizes world politics, American public life, and the Catholic Church in the early 21st century. In these bracing essays, George Weigel, no relation to Trudy, reads such events as the First World War, the collapse of communism, and the Obama and Trump presidencies through a distinctive cultural and moral lens, even as he offers new insights into Pope Francis and his challenging pontificate. Throughout, two of Weigel's key convictions that ideas have consequences for good and ill, I agree, and that the deepest currents of history flow through culture, also agree, illuminate political and economic life, and the life of the church in ways not often appreciated or understood. Okay, so a lot of the essays originated from a lecture he gave at this other institute. Okay, but either way, he's got chapters on Part 1, A World Without Order, Part 2, A Republic in Disarray. I think that goes into the politics going on in the country. Part 3, The Church in the Postmodern World. Okay, so... Oh, and he has a chapter on John Paul II. Well, obviously, he was his official biographer, and maybe someday I'll get around to reading that 2-volume.
Can I do a correction on John Paul I?
Oh, sure, hang on a second.
I got the plot in Godfather 3 wrong. It was because, Michael did say confession to him, but I think the theory that they were going with, right, was within the movie, was that he was slipped poison because of his dealings with the Vatican Bank. That's what it was, which has ties with mafia, but it was that bank.
Okay.
So, you know.
I guess I need to watch the movie. I just
No, you
don't want
I
to.
wouldn't go that far. No.
To me, Godfather ended conclusively with Michael looking out from his lake chair with his hand on his and the light dimming, and as he's considering that he just gave the order to murder his brother, and then the light goes black. That's the ending of Godfather for me. Okay, so that takes care of the religious portion of our program. And the mob portion. Now we're going into straight up just hardcore history. And
I didn't know what you were going to say there.
that was listen,
No,
hardcore
I was like,
history.
well, maybe I just have not been paying enough attention. Okay.
That would have been a good name for a channel, huh? Hardcore history.
Not too late.
No, I've already the history shelf is out there now. It's the history shelf, right? Not hardcore history. It'd be kind of cool though.
Get a scary group watching.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Say, this is also by way of preface that, as you may know, several weeks ago there was or maybe a month now, Princeton University Press had their massive yearly annual sale. This one had prices up to 75% off, I think. You know, and John David and I, and I'm sure you're going to be seeing his haul soon whenever he gets it.
Don't blame him.
I'm not blaming him, but we do shop together. And
They do pick out lipstick for each other.
we do pick out lipstick for each other, don't we, John? He loves me. That's why I know I can make these jokes. Anyway, so as I was like looking for the books that I wanted to buy, a few of them came up, and I'm like, let me see if I can find, as always, thrifty shopper over here. I was like, let me see if I can find these somewhere just a little bit cheaper. And a couple of these books from Princeton I did. I still bought several books from Princeton that I need to unbox, and I will make a Princeton University Press sale haul, show you what I accrued from that very soon. But in the meantime, these were two of the books that I was interested in, and I found them in great condition for, seriously, third-party sellers, cheap. This is Iran. No, Iran. Sorry, I know that.
Iran, you jumped and then...
I sorry, Sarah. I know it's Iran because she's Persian. Iran Rising: The Survival and Future of the Islamic Republic by Amin Psychol. It's Princeton. Okay, this book came out only a few years ago, so it's fairly recent, and 2019, yeah. So I guess they wrote this on the 40th anniversary of the 1978-79 Iranian Revolution. A definitive political picture of the comes a definitive political picture of the Islamic Republic. All right, so when Iranians see, now I'm like second guessing myself. Yeah, it is Iranians, but when you say the country, it's Iran, not Iran. Iran and then Iranians.
Sure.
Is that what you said?
Sure.
Iranian. Okay.
Listen, at this point, everybody's going to say it sounds weird.
Okay.
From this point on, anyway.
When Iranians overthrew their monarchy, rejecting a pro-Western Shah in favor of an Islamic regime, many observers predicted that revolutionary turmoil would paralyze the country for decades to come. Yet 40 years after the 1978-79 revolution, Iran has emerged as a critical player in the Middle East and the wider world, as demonstrated in part by the 2015 International Nuclear Agreement. In Iran Rising, renowned Iran specialist Amin Psychol describes how the country has managed to survive despite ongoing domestic struggles, Western sanctions, and countless other serious challenges. Let me read just a little bit more. Psychol explores Iran's recent history, beginning with the revolution, which set in motion a number of developments, including war with Iraq, precarious relations with Arab neighbors, and hostilities with Israel and the U.S. He highlights the regime's agility as it navigated a complex relationship with Afghanistan during the Soviet invasion, survived the Gulf Wars, and handled fallout from the Iraqi and Syrian crises. Such success, Psychol maintains, stems from a distinctive political order, comprising both a supreme Islamic leader and an elected president and National Assembly, which confused religious and nationalist assertiveness with pragmatic policy actions at home and abroad. So, I've read many books over the years about Iran, and many of them are completely dated now. So I wanted a more contemporaneous, contemporary study that has, recent history very near to hand, and will kind of highlight, the things that have happened at least in the last decade. So that's going to be in here. So I'm very happy to have this one. And it's in great condition. I think I picked it up off of either Thrift Books or Amazon third party. All right.
I remember my Shah story. Shah of Iran.
Yes. You met him?
No, he was dead. His son.
Oh yeah.
So the Shah, one of my international affairs professors, was part of his council, and so he came over to the States, became a professor at Lewis and Clark College. I think he's still there, and but remained friends with the family. And so the son was in the States doing whatever, and so they arranged for this really hush hush lecture at Lewis and Clark, just in the small lecture area. And the only he was nondescript. I mean, I'm sure he was like, we're a great country and we have wonderful human rights, but and my family was hard done by. I'm sure it was all that, but I remember the girl in front of me rustling in her bag, like probably to get, I don't know, a pen and his security people had machine guns in their pockets, basically, and so they were on her like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I remember.
That's a really cool story, hon.
Yeah,
That's neat. She got to hear from the Shah's son, who said it would have been better if my father had stayed.
Yeah, basically. Exactly right. That's exactly right.
Surprising that he would say that. All right. So I'm going to try to keep things bundled up. So we move from one country study to another continent. And this is in light of a book I recently read and reviewed, and it will, if it's not out right now, it's probably going to come out tomorrow in Shelf Awareness. There's a new book coming out called The Inheritors, and it's about South Africa's racial reckoning. And it followed 3 people over the course of 10, 15 years. I think 12 years. They said this report, it was like journalistic reporting, and this woman, this reporter who was just amazing. This book is amazing. Gave it a glowing review. Anyway, that's coming soon, and I will link that to you in all my social media, The Inheritors. So as I was reading about South Africa, during apartheid, and then after, apartheid ended in 1991, Mandela is elected, and it followed the stories of 2 people of color, and then one guy who was at first drafted into the apartheid forces, and he had very ambivalent feelings about having to enforce the apartheid laws. And then when apartheid came down, you see how these people evolve over the years. Some evolve, and one of the people is an anti-apartheid activist. Anyway, I learned a lot about South Africa from this book, and I just wanted to learn so much more. So I was looking for a really good, 1-volume history, and I think I may have found it. But if I haven't, and you are an authority on the subject, or you just know about one, let me know in the comments. But I picked this one up used. This is R.W. Johnson, South Africa's Brave New World, the beloved country since the end of apartheid. Because The Inheritors really talks about what has happened since then, and why they still have some problems. And it's fascinating stuff. Anyway, so I picked this up. And this came out, when I was searching. Okay, this was published in 2010, so I mean it's not extremely new, but it's not overly old. Again, if you know of another book that has slipped under my radar, just let me know below in the comments. I'd be happy to see what you're suggesting. The world's gaze is now focused on South Africa. Okay, so this is dated because they're talking about the World Cup. I'm not sure when they Although initially centered on the World Cup, attention in all the world's media shifted quickly to this extraordinary nation with its opportunities and talents alongside its problems. A perfect moment, then, for the publication of R.W. Johnson's remarkable account of the beloved country since the end of apartheid. Bursting with potential to become a stronger, better country, it has not been easy for South Africa to shake off its past. It's very true. From the book that I read, The Inheritors, it's painful. The profound damage of apartheid stretched throughout the fledgling state. The effects it left in its wake, great psychological harm, an inadequately educated black middle class, and inexperienced leaders, many of whom had lived in exile or in prison for much of their adult lives, were a disastrous combination. Everything from big business to education to energy utilities to AIDS policy to relations with Zimbabwe was affected. Verging on failed state status, South Africa clearly faces both an uncertain future, but perhaps, as Africa's most developed country, a brilliant one. The universal jubilation that greeted Nelson Mandela's inauguration as president of South Africa in 1994 and the process by which the nightmare of apartheid was banished is one of the most thrilling and hopeful stories in our time. Peaceful, rational change was possible, and as with the fall of the Berlin Wall, the weight of an oppressive history was suddenly lifted. R.W. Johnson's powerful account tells the story of South Africa from that magic period to the following years of bitter disappointment. And that is one of the themes that runs throughout the Inheritors, is that theme of disappointment, especially among the black South Africans who were fighting against apartheid, and then they actually achieved political the plurality, that they kind of took over the government and everything. But then they started to see, these anti-apartheid activists started to see the black leadership was disappointing to them, that they were making concessions and with the whites. And, it's a fascinating book, and I will highlight it once I know the review is published and I can talk about it a little bit more. But I highly recommend that book. And what is the author's name? I will get it to you. Anyway, so it's talking about, the hopeful period of magic and then the bitter disappointment as South Africa attempts to take its place on the world stage. So I was really intrigued by that. And it was Mandela, and I think the next president after him was Mbeki. Mbeki, M-B-E-K-I, Mbeki. And we've got some great color photos and stuff in the center. So me, I go down these rabbit holes. I'll read a book.
No, you don't.
She goes, no, you don't. What are you talking about? So, and then I just want to learn more. I want to learn more and know about it. So South Africa, next area of study.
Good to know.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Just don't bring home a vuvuzela or a vuvuzela or however you say
What's it? Oh, that annoying thing they used at the World Cup.
Yeah.
That noisemaker.
Yeah, the vuvuzela.
Vuvuzela.
Maybe.
I don't. She says maybe.
Well, I don't know how to pronounce it. That was a running commentary throughout the World Cup.
Yeah.
People were putting different emphasis on different parts.
And I don't even know how to spell it, so I don't even know how to pronounce it. Okay, and then okay, let's save that for later. That we're gonna move to Britain.
We are.
Well, we're not moving to Britain, but I got two books on like England, Britain, whatever.
Places,
Places.
that aren't American, whatever.
Yeah. So this little, I picked up this little gem. Can't remember where. I think we're off to thrift books. It's a penguin. It's a penguin book. I can't remember where I saw it, but I was like, this looks interesting. This is English Society in the 18th Century by Roy Porter. So definitely this is more of a history that takes you like out of the halls of royalty and politics and parliaments into the streets, as it were. And looks at English society and like what they ate, what they did, how they slept, when they partied. I don't know. It's a revised edition.
I don't think Many people did many party. Well,
And not partying, but you know what I mean. They're drinking, whatever. Um, gosh, I don't have a description to read for you on the back. It's all blurbs. But there are chapters here on contrast, the social order, power, politics, and law. So there's a little bit of that. Keeping life going. So I'm imagining like health and medical care, and I'm always intrigued by that. Like, what do people do with a toothache? Like, just rip the thing out? Yeah, that's what Martine said. Getting and spending, like, having and enjoying is a chapter name. So obviously, buying. What did they buy? What did they like to spend their money on? How did they enjoy their money? Whatever. Drinking, partying. No.
yeah.
And then.
Timeshares in the caves. Yeah, it was great.
So this is in the 1700s then. So and then towards the end it moves on up towards the industrial society. So the Industrial Revolution. So I just thought this would be a really neat book. Just kind of maybe I could dip into and out of, and just kind of get a sense of what life was like in the 1700s.
You're just going to read part of it and be like, that's disgusting, and put it down.
I might.
Yeah.
I might do that.
Yeah.
It's my prerogative. And then this book. Wow. Okay, so you know how sometimes guys out there, holla back if you understand what I'm talking about. You might be browsing on Amazon for a very recent book, and all of a sudden the book comes up new. Like, it comes up on the side and the price is like a single digit for like a hardcover book. This book came out in 2020. So it's still fairly new. I haven't even seen it on Hamilton Books yet, or Book Outlet. And I was just perusing, and up on Amazon, this book came up for like $7.50. $7.50 for a big hardcover, brand new, not third party. Oh, okay, so this is a new book. And again, I screwed up. I included this in my used book. Oh, well, that's okay. I am a weirdo. I know. I'd like to have everything.
You could stop.
No, we're not stopping. This is Britain at Bay, the epic story of the second. Keep rolling. Britain at Bay, the epic story of the Second World War, 1938 to 1941, by Alan Allport. Yeah. This was put out, I think, by Knopf Books. Yeah. I've got a lot of books on World War II and England and World War II, Britain, whatever, and I like it. I enjoy reading this history. So what makes this one different? Let's see here. It's a sweeping, groundbreaking epic that combines military with social history to illuminate the ways in which Great Britain and its people were permanently transformed by the Second World War. Here is the many-faceted, world historically significant story of Britain at war. And looking closely at the military and political dimensions of the conflict's first crucial years, Alan Allport tackles questions such as, could the war have been avoided? Could it have been lost?
I'm starting to freak out over here. I don't know.
I wanted to see if you were going to answer.
I thought
It's okay.
I didn't think this was a pop quiz.
No pop quizzes. Were the strategic decisions the right ones? How well did the British organize and fight? How well did the British live up to their own values? What difference did the war make in the end to the fate of the nation? So, he goes on to try to answer these essential questions by focusing on the human contingencies of the war, weighing directly the roles of individuals and the outcomes determined by luck or chance. And Britain at Bay draws on a large cast of characters. I imagine it would. It says here, for better or worse, much of Britain today is ultimately the product of the experiences of these key years. He's saying 1938 to 1941.
I think that's very true.
His claim is, yes, that they were changed. Or they were the product of those experiences, just from those 3 years alone.
Yep.
So, brand new book, but it was procured through a third-party provider, so I included it in this haul. So, okay. So we had a little bit on Britain, England, then we had, South Africa, we had Iran, And now, getting out of control. Now we're going to that big bad place, Russia.
Okay. All right.
But one of my areas of study, you know that I love Russian history. I don't love what they're doing right now. That's why it's a big bad place. But okay, so as part of the Princeton sale, I stumbled across a few of this man's books, which I showed in the last video. I scored a really cool book on George Kennan, his diaries, right? Well, he did a wonderful work. I think it's a 2-volume work, or maybe there's more. I got the first volume. I looked for it online, found it. Now I'm trying to get the set. This one's a little bit dirtier, whatever. It's hard to find these volumes anymore. But this is his first volume called, and I'm trying to get the sticker off. But this is on here from like someone's like. I don't even know how to get this thing. It's like become part of the cover.
Try a hairdryer.
Hairdryer, maybe goo off or something. This is Russia Leaves the War by George F. Kennan. So this is part of the Soviet-American Relations series. You can see Princeton, but it's an older soft cover. And I'm trying to find the second volume. And it's in my cart, but it's more of like a $20 book. This was definitely less than 10. But so this covers Russia Leaves the War 1917-1920, right? And then volume 2 is The Decision to Intervene. So I want to get the second volume. I'm still keeping an eye out for it. So yeah, that's the big bad Lenin on the front. Vladimir Ilyich Lenin. Not a fan. So apparently this book won a lot of awards. So I'm kind of going back. I want to go back and read the classics of history from the last 50, 60 years. And this would be one of them. This book, Russia Leaves the War, was the winner of the Pulitzer Prize in History, the National Book Award for Nonfiction, the George Bancroft Prize, and the Francis Parkman Prize. That's pretty outstanding. This absorbing volume explores the complexities of the Soviet-American relationship between the November Revolution of 1917 and Russia's final departure in March 1918 from the ranks of the warring powers in World War I. The distinguished scholar and public servant George F. Kennan opens the way to an understanding not only of these events, but of the subsequent pattern of Soviet-American relations and the complex process of international diplomacy generally. And you took your degree in security services, right?
No.
Sorry. International affairs.
International affairs and then security policy studies.
Security policy studies. I completely screwed that one up. But she's got a degree.
I get 3 degrees.
She's got 3 degrees.
And that's just a burn.
Can you say where your degree? Oh, I want people to know how smart you are. She doesn't toot her own horn. That's one of the things I love about her. Okay, so I'm really, really jazzed that I got this for like less than $10, and I'm going to work really hard to get volume 2 with the same jacket design, just black with the red, The Decision to Intervene. So I wanted to show that. Then we switch over to politics and economics in a way.
I'm disappointed.
I'm sorry to disappoint you.
I thought it was going to be about He-Man.
And why did she say that? Because all she can see is this. She sees Masters of the Universe, and she thought I'd be talking about She-Ra and He-Man. No, actually. Oh boy, honey, this is going to be a letdown for you. One of these people, 2 of these people you will not like. All right, we've got Masters of the Universe. Hayek, Friedman, and the Birth of Neoliberal Politics by Daniel Stedman Jones.
Okay.
Do you need to see the cover, or can I just not show it to you?
Where your hand was covering as you lifted it.
Okay. So this was put out by Princeton, but I was able to find it for even super cheaper online.
Your fingers.
Super cheaper.
Super cheaper.
It's my brain has been seriously fried from everything I've been. I can't even go into how much I'm kind of stressed out right now. All right. How did American and British policymakers become so enamored with free markets, deregulation, and limited government? This book, the first comprehensive transatlantic history of the rise of neoliberal politics, presents a surprising answer. Based on archival research and interviews with leading participants in the movement, Masters of the... It does make me think of the cartoon now. Masters of the Universe traces the ascendancy of neoliberalism from the Academy of Interwar Europe to supremacy under Reagan and Thatcher and in the decades since. Daniel Stedman Jones argues that there was nothing inevitable about the victory of free market politics. Far from being the story of the simple triumph of right-wing ideas, the neoliberal breakthrough was contingent on the economic crises of the 70s and the acceptance of the need for new policies by the political left. All right. Masters of the Universe describes neoliberalism's road to power, beginning in interwar Europe but shifting its center of gravity after 1945 to the U.S., especially to Chicago and Virginia, where it acquired a simple clarity that was developed into an uncompromising political message. Neoliberalism was communicated through a transatlantic network of think tanks, businessmen, politicians, and journalists that was held together by Friedrich Hayek and Milton Friedman. I know David Murphy is a huge devotee of Hayek. After the collapse of Bretton Woods in 1971 and the stagflation that followed, their ideas finally began to take hold as Keynesianism appeared to self-destruct. Later, after the elections of Reagan and Thatcher, a guileless faith in free markets came to dominate politics. Okay, so just an interesting study. Oh, I didn't even realize how. Oh, this is scribbled in. When I got the book, I was like, it's looking really good. Looks like they described it as you know. Well, you know what? This is not too bad. And if people leave interesting notes, it's kind of fun. Look at this. This guy's got some thoughts on stuff. What? Wow. If I can make out his writing. Okay. Later rhetoric converts Smith's is into ought. Wow. Very interesting.
Is it?
Is it? Is it? I think it is. Masters of the Universe.
Oh, the real Masters of the Universe would have been interesting.
Yeah. Okay, and then finally I've got two works of literature. But we're going back to Big Bad Russia for these.
I don't know why you're side-eyeing me throughout this.
Because you're a guest on the show.
Well, I'm just listening.
She's listening now. She's part of the audience.
Stop side-eyeing.
I'm going to stop side-eyeing her. So I heard about this author. I was listening to a podcast that I enjoy. They talk about new books in history, literature, whatever. And they were mentioning this, I think he's Ukrainian, but he lives in Russia now. His name is Eugene Votelskin, and I stumbled upon these two other books, and I picked these up because I want to get the one that's a bestseller right now, which is called Loras, and it's set in 15th century Russia, about like a healing man who kind of travels the world and helps people along the way. But I was listening to the podcast, and the woman who's his primary translator was talking about his work, and I was just fascinated. And you know how I'm fascinated with all things Russian anyway, and especially Russian literature, because I think that really just is very morally rich and dense, and it's meaty, and I love it. But I haven't gotten Loras yet. That's his most recent work, but there are two other works that looked really interesting. So I'll pick this one up here. This book was shortlisted for Russia's National Big Book Award and the Andrei Bely Prize, and this is Solovyov and Larionov. Solovyov and Larionov, a novel, and there you have it from the award-winning author of Loras, right? So I read the description for this book, and it sounded fan-flippantastic. It says here, this is a groundbreaking and gripping literary detective novel. So you have first Larionov, a general of the Imperial Russian Army who mysteriously avoided execution by the Bolsheviks when they swept to power and went on to live a long life in Yalta, leaving behind a vast heritage of memoirs. Then it talks about Solovyov, the young history student who travels to Crimea, determined to find out how Larionov evaded capture after the 1917 revolution. With wry humor, Eugene Votelskin, one of Russia's foremost contemporary writers, takes readers on a fascinating journey through a momentous period of Russian history, interweaving the intriguing story of two men from very different backgrounds that ultimately asks whether we can really understand the present without first understanding the past. And here's our author. But he was born in Ukraine. He was born in Kyiv. Then he's worked at the old department. He's worked in the Department of Old Russian Literature at Pushkin House. He's an expert in medieval Russian history and folklore, and that's what his novel Loras, I think, is really where that shines. And that Loras has been translated into 18 languages. Oh, so I wonder if, okay. Well, the second book I have here, this might be the one that's actually the one that was shortlisted for Russia's prize, but I got it in pristine condition from One World Books. That's the publisher for his novels, I guess. One World. Okay. This one's called The Aviator. It's a really cool cover. Really beautiful. Very understated. Very elegant. Yes, this one was shortlisted. Okay, this is a poignant story of memory, love, and loss spanning 20th century Russia. A man wakes up in a hospital bed with no idea who he is or how he came to be there. The only information the doctor shares with him is his name, Innokenty Petrovich Platonov. As memories slowly resurface, Innokenty begins to build a vivid picture of his former life as a young man in Russia in the early 20th century, living through the turbulence of the Russian Revolution and its aftermath. Soon, only one question remains. How can he remember the start of the 20th century when the pills by his bedside were made in 1999? Wow. Okay. Reminiscent of the great works of 20th century Russian literature with nods to Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment and Bulgakov's The White Guard, The Aviator cements Votelskin's position as the rising star of Russia's literary scene. I wonder what he's doing right now with this war going on, but yeah, so anyway, these are two of his works, and then Loras, which I want to get, but I do want to explore Votelskin's his novels. I want to see what they're about. Okay, and I think that sums up. No, man. We're at 48 minutes, and I forgot the books I picked up today.
Wasn't my fault.
I went to Second and Charles to turn in some books, and because I've got an obscene amount of credit, I was able to burn off $47 of credit. Mm-hmm. Oh, I might have to save them. We're at 48 minutes. Mm-hmm. Okay, I think we're gonna cut it here, and come back to you next time. We'll save these because I got 4 really nice big chunksters, and they're things that I've been wanting. So I'm really happy.
You could just hit pause here and then come right back.
Well, no, because the video would still be at 48 minutes.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
But anyway.
Anyway, we're going to wrap it up, guys, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye, guys.
So thanks for Martine for showing up again on our just our little journey down Book Lane. Mm-hmm. Okay. We'll do it again soon, BookTube. Thank you, and take care out there and stay cool. Ciao.